So thanks for your attention after the coffee break. I hope you are not tired, but still available as still able to follow our talks over here. Maybe, I'm sorry, I'll have to move to the left corner. Otherwise, maybe I will have to stay in the middle. Okay, I have the chance to give you a short presentation about how to manage multiple million user setups with open source components like Dovecot, Open-Xchange, and all that stuff. I call it solving the million user issue because it's always easy to set up a system for just 5,000, 10,000, 50,000 users. But if you have to scale up with your amount of accounts, you have several problems to solve. But in fact, it could be quite easy and quite simple if you just follow some guides. We started in 1989 and we founded an ISP called JP Berlin, or JP Berlin in German, which still exists until today, so maybe it's one of the oldest ISPs and email domains that you can find in Germany. And we started to specialize on email account hosting in the 90s, and that's why you have a lot of knowledge about postfix SMTP servers and today about Dovecot IMAP servers. And with our own hosting company, we provide hosted email boxes for companies, business, even up to operational services for other ISPs that we can run their systems in their data center, but with our 24/7 team to keep it up and running for them. And our consulting team can provide the knowledge we have, one in our own experiences and our own experiments in our own data center. Today we have around about 5,000 customers in Germany and several ISPs, even some of them who are here are our customers and had a training, a setup, or a strategy consulting from our team. We are located in Berlin, but in fact we are working everywhere, especially if the sun's shining and the weather is good and warm. So if you're sitting in Brazil or somewhere else, just give us a call. If you have the situation that you have to set up a multi-million user setup, you have at most of the time 3 problems you have to solve. The first problem is the amount of connections, because many million users will ask you for many million connections, and you have to solve that problem. You have maybe a huge storage for them you have to provide, and you have to take care about your database, because most of the time the database is a single point of failure because nobody knows how to handle it. So running multiple million, 100K, 1,000 users is possible if you can split them up into different servers. You have to provide them because IMAP is a long-term running protocol. The users will connect them in the morning, and you have to provide a long-running session for the whole day. They don't log out and log in again like a POP3 user. So you have to provide access for a massive parallel amount of IMAP connections. The problem is a single server can provide a lot of connections, but it's not infinite because the kernel has just a small amount of connections you can handle. You have a load on the system. You have a massive I/O load you have to take care about. And most of the time the ISPs are trying to scale about the multiple servers running in one shared file storage backend, which is still a problem because most of the time the amount of I/O you can provide is still the limit you have if you have to solve the problem over here. So shared file storage is still a kind of bottleneck. If you have multiple 100K, 1,000 users, they're requesting multiple million amounts of counts of emails from you. And if your file storage is just a single setup, just a single system, you won't be able to provide that access. So if you already have Dovecot in your system, you're up on the right way to solve that problem. Dovecot is very easy for a huge amount of accounts running on one single server. It's really no problem to have 500,000 users on one single server system. For sure, it depends on their behavior. It depends on whether they are power users doing a lot of traffic, a lot of activity during the whole day, or maybe they just have an email address on your system which you have provided them, but you gave them for free, and which the users doesn't use at all. So it really depends on the kind of customers you have over here. But for the main ISPs, around about 500,000 users per server is really a good amount that you can handle with one single system. So this is the first point. Having multi-million user setup isn't so much like it's looking. You can have it on just 2 or 3 or 4 servers, and it's possible to handle that. A thing I want to show you today here is the DAVCOD replication service. Maybe you have noticed about it before, maybe not. Maybe you're still on a Cyrus IMAP cluster, then you should have a look to DAVCOD. They're still over here with the boot. And you can have a replication service from one DAVCOD server to another DAVCOD server, and they do a replication on the email itself, on the email object itself. So there's no need to share a block device at the end, or there's no need to set up an R-string replication on a file system basis like Zigo told us before. You can do an active cluster with 2 DAVCOD systems, and every action on the left side is replicated on an internal protocol to the right side. So every server is up to date, up to the minute, up to the last action that has been. And even if they're replication in both ways, while they're replication in both ways, you can use them as an active system, so you can split up your traffic to both systems 50-50. It's always a little problem splitting up your accounts to your connections to different servers, because you're losing caching problem. You're losing your caching benefit if a user is logged in on every system. So DAVCOD has a director service that can handle users' connection from one user always to the same server. So if the user is logging in the morning to server A, and he will come again at 11 o'clock or 3 o'clock in the afternoon with his mobile device or any other kind of device, he is also redirected to the first system, where his email data is already in the cache, is checked out from the object store, or where he can be served with the best performance. So this is what it looks like. You can have a kind of system of load balancing systems. You have the proxy system from IMAP itself, or a director system from DAVCOD itself. They know where a user is located on the system, so they can handle different connections from different devices always to the same system. And if you have too many users so that you can handle them on one single server, you have to split your user groups into 500,000 per system, or in this example, 300,000 users per system, and you have to part them. You have to build up a partition DAVCOD cluster where a database over here knows this is in group A, in group B, in group C user, and you can share the load to multiple clusters. Every of this DAVCOD node over here has its own local storage, so you can use the performance from every single local system, and you don't have the bottleneck of a shared file storage. And with a replication system from DAVCOD, you can also over here make a single pair of twin servers, active systems. So you have an HA replication service over here, so one system can fail without the service going down, and you have the load from 2 systems over here. This is necessary if you have round about more than 1 million users. Otherwise, you can handle them on one stupid single server if you have the right hardware with a little bit of performance. Storage is another problem, because the user are sending huge emails. Everybody's requesting gigabytes of inbox traffic. Setting up quotas less than 1 gigabit is not common over there outside. So if you have 2 million mailboxes on your systems, and if you have a lot of storage, you have different problems in how to make a backup, how much file storage do I have, and especially how much time does a file system check still need on my system. If you have just one single storage server for all, and you have a huge file system on it, you have to think about how many hours will it take if the system is breaking down. I have to do a real file system check from the bottom up. We made some tests over there, and even a single stupid file system on an HP SAN, a storage area network with good hard disk on it, took sometimes about 3 to 9 hours. And this is a time where you are down with your servers, where you can't do anything except waiting, because the file system is not able to work anymore if you have a real power loss or something like that, where you have to do a real complete file system check. So having large partitions is really a problem if you have to provide a huge storage. And that is why we can have something like Ceph, similar to Skeleton. Ceph is a kind of object store where you can have a system with a lot of many different storage nodes. Every storage node is independent, has its own local file space, so you don't have one huge partition, but you have smaller partitions on every server, and you can split up all your objects you have to store up to the different storage nodes in your area, just in your object store network over there. Ceph is quite easy and quite redundant. I will tell something more about it later on. And Dovecot is able to use Ceph as an object store for the emails of the users. And it's quite interesting because it's perfectly upscaling, because in fact there's no limit. There's a nice phrase about it. Everything less than 1 petabyte is small for Ceph. So if you want to provide a petabyte of mail storage, Ceph is always able to handle it. And of course, Ceph is free and open source. It's in every Linux system included. You can use it for free. It's working. Maybe you have heard about OpenStack. Then Ceph is one of the most important storage engines for OpenStack systems. So it's working, and it's ready for productive use. This is what Dovecot is doing to have Ceph up and running. You have an object store over here where you have many mail objects up in the cloud, maybe in your own personal cloud with Ceph, maybe outside on a different object store provider. And if a user is logging in into one Dovecot backend server, he has to fetch the index, the mail's metadata of this user into a local cache running on the system. This is why it's very important that every connection from this user is redirected to the same system over here. But once he is logged in, the system has a local copy of his index files from the users, where Dovecot now has a notification, the knowledge, where is the mail object stored in the cloud, where can I fetch it, where I have to store it. And then the Dovecot system over here can have access to all the files and all the mails up in the cloud. This is interesting because behind that object storage over here is a huge amount of single stupid servers. Every server has local hard disk, cheap hard disk, because every hard disk can fail. This is what I call the Ceph idea. Everything can break and everything will break. So don't try to set up a Ceph storage system over here that is HA, that can't fail per definition. That is very expensive. Just use a huge amount of local hard disks on stupid servers where every single hard disk can fail, because you're able to save every object over here 2 times, 3 times, or even 4 times in the cloud. So if one hard disk is breaking down, you still have 3 copies in your cloud. And maybe at the end, your solution over here is much cheaper and even much more reliable than one single HA storage area network, which is designed not to fail, but in fact it can fail. It's still one single system. And I also have seen systems, SAN systems, that are designed not to fail, but they did. So this is a kind of lie. Yeah, no system will fail, and this system will not fail. It can't fail. This is a lie, and sure, it can fail, and then you have a huge problem. The next problem you have to take care about is MySQL HA availability. Most of the time you will already have a Galera cluster maybe in your setup up and running. I just tell it over here because many customers still have one HA replication based on MySQL, where one server is a master server, the other MySQL server is a slave server. They're doing a kind of replication for their MySQL queries. But in fact, it's good for a failover. If the master is going down, the slave can take over the connections and handle all requests. But to rebuild the replication, you have to stop the whole MySQL server, and a full reset up of a replication with a huge amount of data in your database can also take a long time. So a single replication service for MySQL database is maybe not what you want, and really, in my opinion, not HA, because it's working until you have the first failover. Instead, you can use a MySQL Galera cluster, which has become very popular in the last few years. At the moment, it's not officially supported by Open-Xchange, but I can tell you we are using it for a long time, and it's working. So if you don't fear setting up a little bit stuff that is not officially supported by Open-Xchange, you can give them a try. It's working, and there's no problem. And it makes a lot of fun, because with Galera cluster over here, you have a system with 3 MySQL storage servers. Every server is up and running and can work. And it's very easy to maintain those Galera cluster because you can shut down a single server, you can repair it and fix it, and you can give it back into the Galera cluster without any kind of downtime over there. So, and a nice side effect, it's very easy to run backups on Galera systems, much easier than on a normal MySQL database, so you can even speed up your backups over there. So this is what I want to give you as an idea. If you have to set up your new email system, if you design a new storage system, don't make too much. I'm always a friend of the KISS principle, so keep it simple and stupid, or maybe keep it simple, stupid, and secure. So I would always, I would like to help you setting up systems that are not too complicated and also very reliable and very popular. We had already helped in the past several big ISPs. We have set up around about 1,000 IMAP clusters in the last 10, 15 years for ISPs, companies, and all that stuff. So if you're interested in having some knowledge exchange over here, we have a booth over there. Come to me and give us some minutes for a nice talk. That's what I have prepared for you to show you over here. I think I'm a little bit in front of time. I don't know, because we started a little bit late.
Maybe there are questions.
And I'm sorry, because I'm not used to give talks in English, as you
and not in just 20 minutes. It's like, what I'm going to tell, what I'm not going to tell. And other questions? Yes. Just wait.
Sorry for the microphone.
What kind of file system do you use under CEF?
What storage system?
No, file system.
What file system? Oh, that's quite interesting, because you can use every kind of file system, even different file system on different nodes.
Yeah,
you can use
one
one node with
file system do you use?
We are using XFS at the moment. And I'm not sure. I made several tests in the last few months to get an intention about the benefits of the different file systems. And in fact, for huge, massive parallel usage, XFS has been the best in our measurements. But in my personal opinion, I always loved X3 or X4, which is also very fast for file system checks, because I know how to repair a broken X4 system. But in fact, I don't really not know how to repair a broken XFS system. So this is also kind of security for me to know how it's working.
Okay, thank you.
Some more questions?
Doesn't look like it right now. Well then, thank you so much, Per Heinlein, for Heinlein. And I know you also wrote a book, right? About DAVCOD.
Yeah, I would have been proud. Yeah, we wrote several books in the past about postfix and DAVCOD systems. And DAVCOD, the German DAVCOD book, has been published in February. And we tried to make it happen that it will be released in English today.
I just wanted to ask.
But it will be released on Monday in English.
Well.
And I haven't made the translation, so you can read it.
Oh, but you read it before now it's published. You read it, the translation.
Yes, sure.
You checked.
Yeah,
that it's okay.
I understood
Perfect.
it.
Okay, thank you so much, Per Heinlein. For Heinlein.